For 2,000 years, we've known the shape of our world. So why do millions today reject satellites, photos, and physics to believe the Earth is flat? The answer isn't ignorance, it's engineering. Long before the internet, a leader in Illinois learned to bend reality. He redrew maps, dismissed physics, and built a community that trusted his voice more than the universe. He proved a dangerous rule: a lie spoken with certainty can outweigh evidence and even gravity. This isn't a story of science failing, but of how a flat Earth empire was built and why its blueprint endures. Every distortion starts the same way, not with facts, but with a story. So who told the first one? Before we examine the people who engineered the flat Earth movement, we need to understand the mechanism they relied on. Not physics, not maps, stories. Human beings do not live inside raw reality. We live inside the stories we use to interpret it. And when the universe feels too vast, too complex, or too indifferent, simple stories become powerful substitutes. Consider the Earth itself. Its tilt creates the seasons. Its rotation creates day and night. Its orbit gives us the calendar that anchors our lives. These are not abstract ideas, but the rhythm of our existence. The flat Earth model erases all of this. To keep the world flat, you must freeze its rotation, bring the sun close overhead, and deny gravity, the force that shapes every star and planet through hydrostatic equilibrium. The entire model breaks under basic physics, yet the story persists because it offers something physics cannot comfort. A spherical world in a cold, indifferent cosmos makes us feel small. A flat world enclosed and centered on us makes us feel chosen. That emotional appeal is the true fuel of the flat Earth idea. Once a comforting story takes root, it can overwrite evidence, logic, and even history. This brings us to the real beginning. Not in ancient times, but in the 19th century, when a writer quietly reshaped the past to flatter the modern world. To understand how reality was rewritten, we must start with the first false story, the one about Columbus. We often cling to a flattering story about the past, that our ancestors were superstitious, and that we, the moderns, finally brought enlightenment. The most famous version of this tale centers on Christopher Columbus. According to the myth, in 1492, he faced trembling clergymen who warned that sailing too far west would send his ships over the edge of the world. In this version, Columbus becomes a lone scientific hero fighting the flat Earth dogma of the Middle Ages. There's only one problem: none of it happened. The entire scene is a historical forgery. It did not come from the 15th century, but from 1828, when the American writer Washington Irving needed drama for his biography of Columbus. So, he invented it. Religious authorities quoting scripture. Columbus standing bravely against ignorance, Irving created every detail. The public embraced the story so eagerly, so proudly, that it replaced reality. The truth is far less dramatic, but far more revealing. Throughout the Middle Ages, educated Europeans already knew the Earth was a sphere. Kings knew it. The Church knew it. The real debate Columbus faced had nothing to do with the planet's shape, but with the size of the ocean. His critics correctly warned that the Atlantic was too wide and that he would run out of food before reaching Asia. They were right. Columbus was wrong about the math. The flat Earth of the Middle Ages is not an ancient belief. It is a modern invention, a torn page inserted into our memory, so we can feel superior to the people who came before us. If the darkness did not come from the Middle Ages, then where did the light truly begin? To find the real truth, we must go back much further, before Columbus, before the Church, to a library in ancient Egypt. If history has been rewritten, who rewrote it? And what did the world actually look like? To answer that, we must travel not 2 centuries into the past, but more than 2,000 years, to a man with a stick, a well, and a question for the sun. 2,000 years before Washington Irving wrote his myth, a librarian named Eratosthenes stood under the sun in Alexandria. He had no satellites and no lasers. He had a stick. He had learned that in Siena, far to the south, the sun stood directly overhead at noon on the summer solstice, casting no shadow into a deep well. Yet at the same moment in Alexandria, a vertical stick cast a clear shadow. On a flat Earth, the sun's rays would strike at the same angle everywhere. 2 identical sticks would produce identical shadows. or none at all. They didn't. The only explanation was that the ground between the two cities curved. By measuring the angle of that shadow 7 degrees, roughly 1/50th of a circle, and by knowing the distance to Cien, Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference at about 40,000 kilometers. Modern instruments, despite billions of dollars in technology, have confirmed his result to within 10%. In 240 BC, a man proved the curvature of our planet with nothing more than geometry and a shadow. Humanity didn't forget this knowledge. We ignored it. The tragedy of the modern flat Earth movement is not novelty but regression. We traded the precision of the Greek mind for a comforting illusion. If the Greeks knew the Earth was curved 2 millennia ago, why do some doubt it today? The answer does not lie in maps, but in the mind. Geometry was solved long ago. Belief is the real battlefield. Belief is rarely a matter of geometry. It is a matter of psychology. If Eratosthenes proved the Earth was round with a stick 2,000 years ago, why do millions still insist it is flat? To understand this, we must consider the idea of the open cage. Imagine a bird that refuses to fly even when the cage door stands open. It is not held back by metal bars, but by fear of the sky. The universe we inhabit is overwhelmingly vast. We are tiny specks on a wet rock spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, orbiting a nuclear fireball, drifting through an endless void. This produces what psychologists call cosmic scale. Fear, a sense of smallness and vulnerability. The flat Earth model functions as a sedative. It says the world is still so you are safe. It says a dome hangs above you so you are protected. It shrinks the sun into a local lamp, placing you at the center. This creates cognitive ease. The brain prefers simple, intuitive stories over complex, counterintuitive truths. The floor feels flat, so the world must be flat. In the digital age, this vulnerability is amplified by the algorithm. Click one flat Earth proof video on TikTok or YouTube, and the system does not correct you. It reinforces you. It delivers dozens of confirming videos, building a filter bubble so dense that reality cannot break through. The algorithm becomes the digital bars of the cage, whispering that you are special one of the awakened few, while the rest of the world is blind. Yet belief is not only emotional. Sometimes it comes from a flaw in the hardware itself, a built-in glitch in how our eyes and brain interpret the shape of the world. The most powerful weapon in the flat earther's arsenal is a simple command: trust your eyes. And this is where the trap closes, because our eyes are notoriously unreliable. In 1838, Samuel Robotham performed the Bedford level experiment. Standing in a canal in England with a telescope, he watched a boat row 6 miles into the distance. By the Earth's curvature, the boat should have dipped below the horizon. Yet Robotham claimed he could still see it and declared this proof that the water was flat. He was mistaken. He was not seeing the boat. He was seeing a mirage. Robotham ignored a fundamental principle of physics: atmospheric refraction. Light does not always travel in straight lines. When it passes through dense, cool air just above the water, it bends downward, curving around the horizon. This illusion lifts objects hidden behind the curve and makes them appear visible. His telescope did not reveal a flat Earth. It revealed bent light. Today, a simple camera zoom debunks the claim. Watch a ship sail away with the naked eye and it seems to shrink. Use a high-powered zoom and you see something else. The bottom of the hull disappears first, cut off by the curve of the water. The horizon is not a limit of vision. It is a physical edge. But for those who want to believe, the illusion is enough. And once you accept the illusion, you become vulnerable to the architect. If we cannot trust our eyes, then what guides us? We are about to enter a place where maps were forbidden, and the horizon became a wall. A place where reality was not discovered, but curated. Welcome to Zion. We often imagine that belief in a flat Earth belongs to isolated tribes or ancient mystics, but the modern capital of this delusion was not a remote village. It was a bustling industrial town just 40 miles north of Chicago. Welcome to Zion, Illinois, a city founded in 1901 by evangelist John Alexander Dowie, and later transformed into a rigidly controlled community by his successor, Wilbur Glenn Valiva. Zion functioned as a kind of pocket universe, a place where the factory whistle replaced the church bell, and the overseer's word carried the force of law. Dewey built the framework, but it was Voliva who fortified the walls of the mind. When he seized power in 1906, he grasped a simple truth about human psychology: to control a population, you must isolate them from the rest of reality. He enforced a level of control that modern psychologists would recognize as aligning with the bite model behavior information, thought and emotional control. He discouraged or forbade the use of modern medicine. He banned ham and oysters. He enforced strict Sabbath rules, including prohibitions like whistling on Sundays. But his most striking restriction was geographical. At the city limits and inside its schools, one rule dominated: no globes allowed. Voliva declared war on the sphere. He removed globes from classrooms and replaced them with the azimuthal equidistant map, a projection placing the North Pole at the center and turning the South Pole into an encircling ice wall. In Zion, the horizon was not just a visual boundary, it was a psychological barrier. By surrounding roughly 6,000 residents with a flat map Voliva made the outside globular world feel alien, deceptive, and spiritually dangerous. He did more than teach geography. He recast the outside world as an existential threat. If the world beyond Zion was round, and Zion taught it was flat, then outsiders must be lying. They were the enemy. Only Zion was safe. Voliva amplified this worldview through his 50,000-watt radio station WCBD, broadcasting flat Earth doctrine across the hemisphere. In doing so, he became the first true flat Earth influencer. But a map is more than a diagram. It is a claim about physical reality. And when that map is wrong, the world refuses to conform to it. A world drawn flat on paper eventually collides with the reality of distance, and the test does not require a laboratory or a telescope. It only requires a commercial flight that thousands of ordinary people take every year. A map is not just an idea, it is a navigational tool. If Voliva's map were true, the geometry of our planet would be radically different, especially in the southern hemisphere. On a globe, lines of longitude converge at the South Pole, meaning the distance between land masses like Australia and South America is relatively short. But on a flat Earth map, the South Pole doesn't exist. The lines of longitude diverge outward like the spokes of a wheel. This means the further south you go, the wider the world stretches. To test this, we don't need a spaceship. We just need a commercial airline ticket. Specifically, Qantas Flight 27 from Sydney, Australia, to Santiago, Chile. In the real world, this flight takes about 12 to 13 hours. The plane flies south, skimming the edge of Antarctica, the shortest path on a sphere, and lands in South America. But look at this route on Voliva's flat Earth map. Sydney and Santiago are located on opposite sides of the disk. To fly between them, you would have to cross the entire diameter of the world, flying over the North Pole or across the entirety of the Pacific and North America. The distance on the flat Earth map is over 25,000 kilometers. A Boeing 787 has a maximum range of roughly 14,000 kilometers. If the Earth were flat, Flight QF-27 would run out of fuel and crash into the ocean somewhere near Hawaii, thousands of miles short of its destination. Yet this flight lands safely every single day. The mere existence of long-haul southern flights is a mathematical impossibility on a flat plane. Furthermore, navigation relies on the rotation of the Earth beneath us. This is the Coriolis Effect. As depicted in scientific diagrams, objects moving across a rotating sphere are deflected to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. Pilots, artillery gunners, and snipers must account for this deflection. If the Earth were a stationary plate, as Voliva claimed, a bullet fired north would travel in a perfectly straight line. It doesn't. It curves, precisely matching the rotation of a spherical planet. Voliva could burn all the globes he wanted, but he could not refuel a plane that shouldn't exist, nor could he straighten the path of a bullet. The physical world refuses to be flattened. To finish dismantling Voliva's universe, we have to follow the laws he tried hardest to ignore: acceleration, gravity, and the unforgiving speed of light. If planes can't fly on his map, then what else in Voliva's world defies the laws of nature? It turns out, to keep the Earth flat, he had to break the ultimate speed limit of the universe. When you build a fake universe, you eventually run into a problem: you can't talk your way out of gravity. Gravity is the invisible glue of the cosmos. It explains why we stick to the floor, why the moon orbits the Earth, and why the atmosphere doesn't drift away. But Wilbur Glenn Voliva had a problem. On a flat disk standard, gravity wouldn't pull you down. It would pull you toward the center of the disk. If you lived near the edge of the disk in Australia, down would no longer point beneath your feet. It would tilt sideways at roughly 45 degrees. Reaching the beach would feel like scaling a sheer cliff. To fix this, Voliva did something audacious. He deleted gravity. In 1914, he proposed that the Earth is not pulling us down. Instead, the entire flat disk is accelerating upward through space at a constant rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. When you drop an apple, the apple doesn't fall. The Earth rushes up to meet it. It sounds clever in a bar bet, but in the court of physics, it is a death sentence. Let's do the math that Voliva ignored. If you start at zero and accelerate at 9.8 meters per second squared, you gain speed very quickly. After 1 hour, the Earth would be traveling at 35,000 kilometers per hour. After 1 day, 846,000 kilometers per hour. But Voliva's Earth has been accelerating for billions of years. The problem is the speed of light. In 1905, just a few years before Voliva took power, Albert Einstein published the theory of special relativity. He proved that the speed of light, approximately 300,000 kilometers per second, is the absolute speed limit of the universe. Nothing with mass can reach it, let alone exceed it. If we follow Voliva's logic, how long would it take for his flat Earth to hit this cosmic wall? The calculation is brutal. 300,000 meters per second divided by 9.8. The result is roughly 30.6 million seconds. That is 354 days. In less than 1 year, Voliva's Earth would crash into the speed of light. To sustain this acceleration for billions of years would require infinite energy, more energy than exists in the entire observable universe. Einstein's equations prove that as you approach light speed, your mass increases toward infinity. If Voliva were right, the Earth would have become a black hole eons ago. While Einstein was rewriting our understanding of time and space with elegance and precision, Voliva was building a model that breaks the fundamental laws of reality in less time than it takes to orbit the sun. He tried to outrun Einstein, but he hit the wall of physics. But when Voliva tried to conquer Einstein, gravity was waiting to drag him back down. Because even if you deny gravity, it is still shaping you. Gravity is not just a force that makes things fall. It is the cosmic sculptor. It is relentless, it is patient, and it hates corners. Imagine placing a heavy bowling ball in the center of a raw, stretchy pizza dough floating in space. The dough doesn't stay flat. The gravity of the ball pulls the edges of the dough inward, wrapping it around the core until the dough becomes a sphere. This is a simplified view of how planets form. In astrophysics, this process is called hydrostatic equilibrium. It is the state where a celestial body's internal pressure balances out its own gravity. Gravity always pulls matter toward the center of mass, the most efficient way to pack material together. The result is always a sphere. It is nature's perfect shape. But gravity has a rule. You must be this tall to ride. Small rocks like asteroids or comets don't have enough mass to crush themselves into a ball. They can remain lumpy, potato-shaped, or flat. We call this the potato radius. For rocky bodies, this limit is roughly 200 to 300 kilometers in radius, which corresponds to about 400 to 600 kilometers in diameter. If an object exceeds this size, its own gravity becomes so powerful that the rock behaves like a fluid over geological time. Mountains crumble, valleys fill in, and high points are dragged down until the surface is smooth and round. The Earth is not a potato. It is 12 of 742 kilometers wide. It is massive. If you could magically snap your fingers and turn the Earth into a flat disk today, the violence would be apocalyptic. Gravity would instantly assert its dominance. The edges of the disk would be crushed inward toward the center, with the force of 1,000,000 nuclear bombs. The rock would liquefy, the disk would shatter, melt, and violently reform itself back into a sphere within hours. A flat Earth of this size is physically unstable. It cannot exist in a universe governed by gravity. To believe in a flat Earth is to believe that a mountain can stand taller than the atmosphere, that rock is stronger than the fundamental forces of nature. The universe demands a sphere. The only place a flat Earth can exist is in a diagram drawn by a man who refuses to look up. If everything in the universe is forced to be round, why does our belief system try so hard to be flat? The answer lies in the only place where Voliva's virus still survives. It no longer lives in old institutions or factory sirens. It lives in a quieter structure built from code pixels and infinite scroll. Wilbur Glenn Voliva died in 1942. In his final days, he admitted that he had mishandled church funds. When he was gone, Zion City loosened its grip. The rules dissolved. The warnings against globes disappeared. The town slowly rejoined the rest of the world. By all logic, the belief should have vanished with him buried alongside his ambitions. But ideas are not bound to the people who create them. They travel, they adapt, they wait. The flat Earth idea did not die. It simply moved to a new home. It left behind the buildings, the fences, and the watchful eyes of Zion and settled into a system far more powerful than anything Voliva controlled. Today, Zion is no longer a geographic location. It exists everywhere. It lives inside the glowing screen that follows you through your day. We are living through an epistemological crisis, a collapse of shared reality. In this digital Zion, the walls are lines of code, and the new overseer does not shout commands. It shapes your world with quiet precision. It uses attention, repetition, and reward. A study from MIT showed that false information spreads online much faster than the truth. That happens because the truth is often slow, complex, and indifferent. Falsehoods are quick, emotional, satisfying. They make the world feel smaller and more centered around you, exactly the way Voliva once designed his city to feel. When you stare into that fractured screen, the system learns what unsettles you and what comforts you. If you fear the vastness of the universe, it will build a smaller one for you. It will assemble a bubble of information so complete that no outside light can enter. You no longer need a leader to forbid a globe. A personalized feed can erase it just as effectively. So we return to the question that has followed us from the beginning. The shape of the planet was never the real conflict. The battle has always been over something deeper. Who gets to define the limits of your reality? A globe reminds us that the universe does not revolve around us. A screen can easily pretend that it does. And the final question is no longer about the Earth. It is about you. Who are you allowing to design your universe?